The poetry editor at Revival Press, which for anyone who doesn't know is the poetry imprint of the Limerick Writers' Centre. So just before we hear from Dora and from Suzi herself, I just want to say a few words about what we do at Limerick Writers' Centre. We trace our lineage from the now legendary era of weekly readings that became known as the White House Poetry Revival in the early 2000s. And this tradition had its roots in the Poetry Circle, founded by the poet Desmond O'Grady at the White House back in 1954. On top of poetry readings, creative writing workshops, competitions in both poetry and prose, and a variety of other projects, perhaps our biggest focus in recent years has been our community publishing programme. We've been working hard to make a mark in the world of literature in Limerick City and beyond, bringing book ideas and writing to people of all ages since 2008, and including recent works of fiction under the new Savoy Editions banner. This afternoon we celebrate our 211th publication. I think we'll be pretty close to 220 by Christmas. It's been a crazy couple of months. And even this one, I thought we'd get this one out sooner. I've been looking forward to this one. But anyway, we encourage all writers, whether you're pursuing a serious career or writing for fun, seeking healing or striving for personal growth. Our publishing philosophy centres on service rather than any kind of self-promotion. In our programme we focus on creating high quality short-run titles that anyone can pick up and enjoy. We believe literature should exist to enrich readers' lives, to promote understanding and to foster connection and community. Our service-oriented approach guides all of our decisions, from manuscript selection to design choices to community engagement. Whether it's a poem, a novel, a memoir, a short story or a song, we think every creative endeavour is valuable and deserves to be shared, enjoyed and remembered, whether that's through publication or performance. We have adapted the words of John Millington Synge as our motto, that poetry must have its roots in the clay and soil of our communities. So our goal is to make exciting literature more accessible, to celebrate the wisdom and lived experience of real people in Ireland today in their own words. We remind new writers and readers not to worry, that these are all skills you can learn, and with practice your inner artist will start to shine through. We also remember that modern poetry has its roots in ancient oral traditions, where bards served as community storytellers, historians and spiritual guides. We recognise poetry's kinship with ritual and sacred practices across cultures. Like prayer or meditation, poetry offers a structured way to engage with deeper truths, to connect with ancestral wisdom, and possibly even to transcend everyday consciousness. We value work that acknowledges this lineage and approaches writing as a practice with spiritual dimensions. Over the years we've produced a wide range of works, from poetry and short stories to novels, histories, memoirs and a variety of mixed prose. We're proud that our books capture snapshots of living and evolving culture, and that they will last for many years to come as a record of the events, people, places, feelings and ideas that make Limerick and Ireland such a fascinating place to be. We hope that our books will also serve as talismans to further inspire poetic creations. We believe poetry and literature offer resistance as well against dehumanisation in all of its forms, and this is a kind of resistance that cannot be colonised by authoritarian forces. Sometimes we look within ourselves, at our hometown, our nation, or at events with a global scope and how they reflect on the human condition. And I feel that the collected poems in this book are a superb exemplar of our values at the Limerick Writers' Centre. In this book we are taken on a journey through 44 pieces of awesome poetry, and the poems are beautifully complemented by atmospheric editions of Suzi's own photography. As Edward O'Dwyer puts it on the back of the book, this is a confessional and brave collection. I was immediately impressed with Suzi's way with words, There's a powerful honesty in some of her short phrases, as in poems like Formaldehyde, Mirror Creature and Delicate, which left me reeling just as effectively as some of the denser prose poems like The Awful Thing or Boiling Point. This collection is fantastically crafted, with motifs and echoes, sprinkling an evolving story throughout the book. As most of you will know, Suzi started writing at a young age, and pieces of her poetry have appeared in a variety of publications, including the Irish Independent and the 2024 edition of the Stony Thursday book. She curates as well the always fascinating Poetry Diaries Instagram page, sharing and responding to prompts from writers around the world. I've been lucky, I think, living here in Limerick over the last 10 years to see many talented young writers sharing their work at the likes of Stanzas, Prose Poetry and Pints and the White House. So it's particularly exciting to be able to publish Susan's debut collection, both on its own merit as a work of poetry, but also as a reminder to those emerging generations of writers that their voices with dedication can find a place to be heard. So on behalf of Revival Press and the Limerick Writers' Centre, Gurmila Mahagat, Suzi, for choosing Revival Press as a home for your poetry. Thank you to the People's Museum of Limerick for hosting us here today, and to Dor for the words that she will soon share with us. A special thanks as well to the rest of the team at the Limerick Writers' Centre, especially Jeffrey Carmody for his design work. I think you'll all agree that the book turned out absolutely gorgeous. Thanks as well to Pat for his photography, and to Marianne at the book table. And most importantly, thank you all for coming here today. It's fantastic to see people coming out to support Suzi and her writing. Congratulations, Suzi, on this fantastic debut, and we do hope it's the first of many. So, welcome now to Dor.
Thanks, Tom. Hi, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here to welcome everyone to the launch of Growing Hearts. My name's Dor. I'm a poet, editor, and poetry organizer, and I live here in Limerick. In fact, I first met Suzi at the White House, where she volunteered to help us get our revived, now First Wednesday series off the ground, and got us onto social media and generally helped out wherever we needed a hand. So I was delighted when she asked me to say a few words about the collection. At first, when I thought of standing here, I felt really intimidated. Anytime anyone is asked to launch someone else's book, it's really daunting. You're never quite sure what the right thing to say is, and you want to do their work justice. And a lot of work is involved in getting a collection out. First you write the poems, you edit them, you work with other people, more on that in a bit. But I know this because 9 months ago I launched my own first collection, and it took multiple walks around the park over there to get me in any state to be ready to stand behind this podium. So, yeah. So, like I said, to bring a collection out, you write them, then you edit them, but then you have to figure out how they fit together, organize them into a whole that's somehow bigger and cohesive, where every poem has its own place in that order, and you take the reader on some sort of a journey, and that changes from collection to collection. It's especially challenging to do for a debut collection, because you're often talking about a longer span. I think Suzi started writing when she was 8. So you're talking about a long span of years in which you've been writing. So many of our favorite poems perish on the journey to a book. And it's such a big moment for any writer. And we worry about how our work will be received, whether we'll be reading to ourselves at the launch, etc. So it's lovely to see you here. And then there's the work with other people. Dominic, Tom, and Jeffrey do the sacred work of helping us bring our collections into the world. And they do it with patience and goodwill, enriching all of our lives. So before I say a few brief words about the collection, let's give them a round of applause. I personally dislike when launch remarks go on and on and on and on, so I've intentionally kept these very short. I could have stood here for an hour to talk about the collection, but I'm not going to do that. I will spare you and myself. So I'm just going to share a few aspects that I particularly love about this collection and leave enough time and space for us to hear the actual poems. Like Tom said, this is a very brave collection in that it tackles aspects of growth into adulthood, a time with stops, starts, strong emotions. Loves come into our lives and are then lost. We doubt ourselves, sometimes have really difficult experiences during that time. Most of us have probably gone through it, and sometimes we keep returning to the cruxes we face then. Add to that the tendency of readers is to equate the person speaking in the poem with the writer of that poem. We worry about revealing too much, what assumptions a reader might make based on our writing, whereas often the actual facts of our lives are not necessarily revealed in the poem, so much as the truth of an emotional impact, sometimes even mixed in with other people's experiences. Whether or not we actually are describing events of our own life, we are laid bare. As Suzi puts that vulnerability so well in the poem Formaldehyde, I am naked under the world's gaze, transparent, a thin-skinned animal suspended in a jar. But Suzi manages to navigate all of this brilliantly by skillfully moving between the micro, personal, and internal experiences of the speaker or speakers in poems like Leaving Home, Mirror Creature, and Spoons, while sometimes also speaking in the voice of collective myth and shared cultural figures. For example, Judas Iscariot features in one of my favorite poems in this collection, Sympathy for the Devil That Sometimes Entered Judas. I fell in love with that poem the first time you read it in the White House, and every time I read it since, I go, yes, I love this. And so the mythical or biblical is juxtaposed with the personal, serving as a metaphor for the speaker's own experience in poems like Samson Skips the Gym, The God of Gold, and I Dreamt My Father Killed the Fatted Calf. This has the effect of lending a larger resonance to personal and emotional moments, such as an ending of a relationship. Because the poems refer to gods, country, redacted history, the disillusionment is bigger than a personal disappointment or heartbreak. It becomes collective and universal. Another prominent character in its own merit in this collection is Limerick City. Limerick makes repeated appearances in poems which will make you see everyday scenes and places you know well in totally new and magical ways. For example, Suzi describes a Saturday night in Limerick City, and she writes, "A pair of broken heels lay on a table inside a ring of pint glasses. Here she's making the heels, an ordinary object, feel like an artwork put on display. It makes you want to be there to see this slightly absurd and beautiful object." Later in the poem, leaving the pub at 2 a.m., lit cigarettes zigzagged in the orange light like drunk fireflies. Suzi shows us the humor or strangeness in a situation that appears routine, makes us look at it with fresh eyes, which is the vital job of an artist. But Limerick isn't just present in the book as itself. It sometimes stands for a person, a loved one, such as in the poem The States of Water, where, and I quote, "Your limbs turned into ropes of curling steam, and I held you like a summoned ghost. The speaker is now holding the city as well. And this brings us to the wonderful black and white photos included throughout the collection. While sometimes these amplify bleakness in the poems, at other times they show the beauty of Limerick in black and white, looking sharper. Moreover, the photographs are as much a part of the collection as the poems, playing a part by making manifest bits of imagery that become motifs in the collection, layering light and dark, bringing the cityscape and nature in, and helping us to zoom in or zoom out together. This is really unique, with the art forming an integral part of a collection, becoming part of the piece that's being made, linking poems, making us think more about the imagery, emotions, and ideas expressed. And not every collection does that. But back to the poems. Another aspect I particularly admired about the collection is Suzi's use of rhyme in some of the poems. I loved how light her touch is. It's done really well. The rhymes are needed for the poems to work. They don't feel labored or contrived. For example, in the poem Mirror Creature, the rhyme enables the poem to pick up speed and spirit, especially towards the end. The poem goes from the self as subdued and oppressed. My reflection is a creature I don't recognize, a black unholy thing, bottom feeding. To still reeling, this creature's getting used to kneeling, but look at its eyes. There is rage and revolution ruling. This saves the speaker from self-pity and the poem from sinking into maudlin, and the way the rhyme foreshadows the empowerment at the end by picking up the poem's pace is fantastic. I want to give us time with the poem, so one last point. In all good collections, the expression or style is at the center and is to be savored. And in this one, Suzi really does this, because the poems are filled with sensuous, lyrical language and beautiful imagery. The collection tells a unique story of the importance of loving and healing, and most importantly, forming autonomy. It expresses things in ways that make you wish you had said them, seen them, or thought of them in that way. For example, it says about love, I've snapped more than one, like a brittle rubber band, trying to fit it around me. Or about going to work, which many of us will identify with. You are one of many sled dogs. The sunless day is meat to chew through, raw as a winter's breath in your nose. Or, to quote more gorgeousness, this feeling, like a million violin strings shuddering in the walls of my skin, stays trapped. That's from Boiling Point. I'll just quote one more, and then I'll leave you to the poems themselves. Folding in on myself, like an origami rose, blooming in reverse, from Voicemail in Quarantine. This book is a piece that blooms into itself and into its reader. Suzi, congratulations on a wonderful achievement. Buy the book, read the book, and now I'll let Suzi read from it.
Hi everyone, thank you for coming, and thank you to Dor and Tom for your kind words. Thank you to everyone who took the time to make this book happen. To Jai and Lauren and Dor and Ed for writing thoughtful blurbs for the back of the book. Thank you all for your kind words and your support. Yeah, this book was such a team effort, and I'm so happy that it's here and it's done. Yeah, I'm so grateful for all the support I've had on this. Just a few words about this book. I'll keep it brief. The main thing to know about this book is that I wrote it in the aftermath of the worst breakup of my life, the worst time of my life. I had my heart broken for the first time when I was 23, which is very old for that to happen. And so it was devastating and terrible and the worst thing that had ever happened to me. And also, the pandemic happened around the same time. So all of a sudden, relationship was over. The world as we knew it was suspended, and so it was like a new level of isolation. So not only was I alone, but also we all had to keep a physical distance from everyone. So for me, touch is a big part of how I understand and show love, both like within my close relationships. So to have that pretty much eliminated from my life all at once, it was quite a lot to deal with. And so I think that's why skin is a recurring theme in this book, which I didn't even notice until Edward O'Dwyer pointed it out, and I was like, oh my god, I talk a lot about skin. I do, don't I? Anyway, poetry was really how I kind of self-regulated. It was how I got through that time, and I wrote poems sporadically. I was not very prolific at all before this period. So this is when I really started writing every day, and I found my voice. And so I'm actually very glad that all this happened. And this is a book. The poems are pretty much in chronological order of the things that happen and how I work through them. And poems are a way that I sort of encapsulate an emotion or a realization that I have that helps me work through certain things. So they're almost like bookmarks in my life. Like, this is when I realized this and grew through this. And anyway, the book is not light reading. It deals with some heavy themes. I can't promise that the writing will be flawless or very polished because it is my first collection, but what I can say is that it's 100% raw and honest, and it was truthful. The moment that I wrote it, it was truthful at that moment. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. So I'll go ahead and read a few poems. You don't have to clap until the end, it's okay. This is called Leaving Home. I nearly sprinted out the door the day I left home. My head was full of the place I was headed, dreams of a better kind of heaven. I would have lingered longer in the sun had I seen the change creeping into the sky, felt the cold air move in like a glacier. But all at once the melting gold was swallowed by hungry hills and a thin half moon. I settled into the first warm place I found. Spoons. The parting feels unnatural, like leaving the front door and stepping into the day exposed. I want to bring you with me like the shirt on my back, matched to my blood heat and worn in by sleep. We move very little in the bed. Here and there, limbs lifting like shirt tails in the wind, your arm settling fast into its old stillness. You lie along my shoulders like a tailored thing. There are no wrinkles here. We are smooth pressed and warm, just right. This is Saturday night in Limerick City. And I wrote this, it's about leaving, it's about going to Icon. And then leaving Icon. We walked to the pub in fur-lined coats that somehow caught a pissing rain like dewdrops. Piercings floated like flecks of moonlight on the faces in the smoking area. We stamped out our glowing ends and pressed on to the nightclub. Boys with untucked shirts were already falling over each other on the dance floor. A pair of broken heels lay on a table inside a ring of pint glasses, and 7 women danced around it like a ritual. We shouted over music pulsing heavier than the heartbeat in our sternums, and filled up our glasses in the ladies' room from a naggin smuggled in a tampon box. Dancing till we had emptied it. Another round, more dancing. Another round, more fags. Another round, dancing. White fluorescent lights blinking. Last call. and flickering on too soon. Is it already 2 a.m.? Let me finish my pint. Supermax? Obviously. People poured out onto the roads. Lit cigarettes zigzagged in the orange light like drunk fireflies. There were hands flapping stupidly for cabs on both sides of the road like onlookers at a parade, and a wobbling line of women who climbed up the sloping road with shaky, high-shoed steps, bare red arms holding onto each other. Scattered shouts and Sweet Caroline echoed off the dark shapes of houses. We rolled cigarettes with frozen fingers and watched as the people picked their way home. Nine to 5. Then all at once, the world of work is upon you like a snowstorm, and worse than the forecast warned. You are one of many sled dogs. The sunless day is meat to chew through, raw as winter's breath in your nose. Evening comes when the day is swallowed and your teeth are grinding still. The world shrinks to your elbows and your body bends and bends until it breaks like cheap wire, fragmented. You are at once too many things and nothing at all. And still you step into the cold mornings. Sisyphus, bending his back to the boulder, rolled down. Yesterday is here again, the slain giants resurrected. Rise, young blood, there are elephants to eat, wars across mountains to reach on their doomed backs. This one's called Going to Scotland, and it's about the last trip I took in my relationship. Well, the last trip we went on, I suppose. We missed our bus to the Highlands and got drunk instead. I'm still embarrassed about that. We found some Americans. Your accent got thicker, and the bar table had so many empty glasses you couldn't put your elbow down. I made you promise to never let me sing karaoke again. You hated the Edinburgh dungeons. I hated the photos, and the photo man said it wasn't his fault my face looked like that. I felt like crying and let my coffee go cold instead. You were having a bad enough day. I dragged you to the Monkey Barrel Club to get you laughing, and you finally cracked up when the man asked if you were from nice Ireland or scary Ireland. We looked in all the gift shops, and you finally found the perfect gifts for everyone. Everyone back home. A blue kilt for your nephew, whiskey-flavored condoms for the boys. You were smiling after that. Your smile hits me somewhere visceral, a warm grip in my stomach. Something about the way it stretches wider than your teeth, as though your happiness is more than the foundations of your bones had reckoned for. My red wool scarf blew away somewhere in Glasgow. We flew back to Dublin on a tiny plane. There was an accident on the road home from the airport. I made you get out and help because you knew CPR. I think a lot about the time we went to Scotland because you told me months later it was there that you realized you didn't want me anymore. And I still wonder if it happened at the dungeons or the comedy club or the bar or the accident or the gift shop, and I still can't help wondering what the exact moment was and whether I was looking at you when it happened. This one's called Living Alone, and it's about when I was in Germany on student exchange, which was a whole new level of isolation, and I kept buying Weetabix. And it was like all I would eat. Anyway, living alone. I discover strange new freedoms. I eat a box of cereal in a day, and no one complains about how quickly all the cereal disappeared. I could eat nothing, or nothing but cereal. No one stops me. I could go back to the supermarket so often, the cashiers blurring my eyes and the pattern of my mask, and wonder why I come in so often just to buy one box of the same brand of cereal, and whether my mother ever taught me how to cook a proper meal for myself, and whether I might consider getting a life anytime soon, and why I don't just stock up on 10 boxes at once, but then I might eat nothing else for 10 days and no one would be there to stop me. This is called Some Days I Forget I Have Skin. You carry your weight in guilt, but you don't believe in God or sin. Not really. You definitely don't count sins of omission, like when you fell out of love with me and failed to mention it. Some days I forget I have skin, and the pain in my chest is all there is, as if the rest of me shattered and became dust again. Creation in reverse. Some days I run my fingers over the skin on my legs and arms to ground myself, because I forget I still have outlines. There is something about your small face and the way you are all legs and feet, something about the way your skin is soft like proven bread that makes me think one of the reasons I exist is to love you. You think so little of yourself, and so I love you harder. I love you, and hope it will overflow and spill into your empty spaces. And I love it when I make you laugh. It feels strange to love you still, to have to hide it now like scarred skin. You were always better than me at camouflage. And the last one I'll read is called The Blue Street Lamps. The blue street lamps on Sarsfield Bridge still make me think of you. And the lonely People's Park pagoda, rising like a red island from an emerald lake. And the schoolboys with their side-shorn heads like yours. And the long walk by the silver-tipped Shannon as it rises with the moon. I think of you when I see smoke rising from twin chimneys, like a two-fingered salute to the winter sky. In Limerick City, I think of every happy thing that found me here. How the happiest thing was you. Thank you, everyone.
All of the official speeches. If you haven't already, please buy a book or 2 or 5. They'll make fantastic Christmas presents. And again, thank you all for coming today.